Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about understanding why size and strength are so massively overlapped. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd appreciate it so much. Thank you. And in the case of some of this, I think what has to be pointed out immediately, don't use examples of extreme outliers or people lifting fake weights. This gets brought up a lot, particularly when I put these statuses up on Facebook. I've had people who were pretty much known for not lifting real weights, like it's very obvious what's happening. They'll bring up like Anatoly, who is a comedy guy, right? He does parody skits. He's not actually as strong as he kind of makes out to be. We've seen his powerlifting results, and he does a lot of skits. But he's just under a 500-pound deadlifter, which is by no means crazy weak, but he's, like 165 pounds. It's not unheard of, right, in powerlifting meets. This is not like it's some insane strength. And no, he doesn't actually deadlift 600 pounds or any of that. He does some stuff with some bumpers, a little fake plates, really, really whippy bars with straps on sumo. That doesn't mean you can actually walk into a competition and deadlift 600. I think his best deadlift in a meet was around 450 pounds, a little over, which is decent, but it's not, 600 pounds, right? So I think people forget that, and everything he does is bumpers, and he has actors in there. It's all skits. He's not necessarily stronger than these guys who are showing up in the skits. It's all for comedy, right? It's just comedy. It's not reality. It's satire. It's intended to be entertaining, right? You're not supposed to actually really and truly believe in the real world. He's stronger than these big juiced up guys, okay? So again, he's a mid 400s deadlifter, and his squat's in the high 300s, so he's not some weak person. But he's, again, this is just comedy, guys. It's just satire. It's for fun. The up powerlifter guy, pretty much common sense, would have told you he was a fraud with the benching, right? And I don't need to cover all that again. I think all of us who are serious lifters realize what was going on. He got called on a lot of stuff, and he refused to step up to the plate. He refused to ever be tested in a real environment because he was making money off of the ad revenue. Off his fake bench pressing. So that aside, though, people have this idea, and they're not looking at the data. They're looking at what they're seeing as outliers, and they'll be, well, how come this bodybuilder is weak? Well, the bodybuilder is probably not weak. This comes up to you see one of these really jacked pro bodybuilders actually try to lift something heavy, and they're like, oh, they're lifting all this lightweight until they go to lift something heavy, and then, like Kai Green was a perfect example. Then he does reps with 405 on an incline bench, okay? We understand how elite that strength level is, right? And the people will say that, well, they look bigger, but they're not necessarily bigger than the fatter powerlifter you're seeing. The fatter powerlifter literally might have as much or more muscle or the big strong man when you realize, oh, they're lifting more than them because they're way bigger. You stand them next to them, oh, they're taller, they have more fat, but probably just as much muscle. And fat leverages help certain lifts too. We know that the squat, the bench press benefit from body fat, the deadlift doesn't. So the anecdotes don't really work. They don't really work. It's just kind of nonsense. When you really go look at data that's been found, there was that big study that was done, big meta-analysis, which everyone from Schoenfeld to Knuckles and Minnow and all these people, they compiled all their data that they were doing of different stuff, comparing size and strength in DEXA scans. And what they all determined, when they looked at it, they measured a bunch of serious powerlifters, a bunch of serious bodybuilders, tested 1 rep maxes, ran them in DEXA scans, and do you know what ended up happening? All the researchers, when they were looking at the DEXA scans, were able to come up with formulas and estimate the max squat of the individual they were DEXA scanning with about a 10% margin of error. Meaning, if they did that DEXA scan and they said, yeah, I think based on my calculations, this guy has a 500 squat, it would be guaranteed that when it was tested, that guy's squat was between 455 and 540. Okay? So do you understand that they were able to do this off of a DEXA scan? Literally scan their body. They were able to look at their levers, their moment arms, and the amount of muscle on them and figure out how much they could squat. Off of a scan of their body. Meaning the physical structures of the amount of muscle they had in proportion to their height, their levers, their moment arms, the length of arms and legs and torso and stuff. They were able to come up with formulas where they could predict their squat fairly accurately. Same thing when they took a bunch of elite powerlifters, they took them up at like a national level meet. They threw them in a DEXA scan, and their totals in competition were in perfect order. Meaning they placed in terms of their total on like 10 lifters in the exact order of their fat-free mass. Meaning the one with the most fat-free mass had the best total. The one with the second highest fat-free mass had the second best total. And so on and so forth. You know, the same thing when other studies have been done when we remove all the technique, all the neural drive. You know, when people have been locked into devices with really recent studies, stuff done in the last couple of years, to where they could really get in and measure an MRI the size of a muscle, and then they'd lock them into a machine. The 10 rep max, meaning it's a good proxy for strength. How many reps, what weight can you hit 10 reps and fail on rep 10? Right? Was completely directly correlated with the thickness of the muscle. So when a muscle's isolated, it's not even like a 10% margin of error. Like they can literally take a measurement of the lean mass in a muscle, measure it, and it will perfectly scale with size based upon the length of the lever, like the arm or leg or whatever it's attached to. Okay? It's a perfect scaling. It's a one-to-one when they look at it. Meaning any increase in cross-sectional area will give a direct proportionate increase in, say, the 10 rep max when locked into a machine and the muscle's forced to be isolated. Okay? So what does that tell you? That most of your strength is going to come from size. Okay? At the level of the tendon, it's almost guaranteed. So then what are we dealing with other differences? Difference in leverages, differences in coordination. So a lot of intermuscular coordination, extramuscular coordination, a lot of that is skill. We call skill, that is what we mean. Finding the right technique, levers, and learning to coordinate everything to where your muscles all kind of fire in the order and pattern that you want them to move the weight through that pattern that you're trying to do. There's a skill to that. That's why practicing lifting heavy is a skill. Okay? And all that skill and stuff accounts for a relatively small percentage compared to the amount of muscle mass that a person has.